Today, I'm going to give you a mathematical representation of enlightenment. Okay? So, you're going to bear with me a little bit. Now, we're going to talk about convergence. Convergence of mind, matter and time. Or convergence of nature, art and science. And that is what TED is about. I'm going to take you on a journey so that you can start visualizing your life differently after today. I'm deeply impressed by the greatest genius of all times, Leonardo da Vinci. And I've taken 3 of his methods. And I ask all of you, little geniuses, big geniuses sitting over here, to follow along with me. 3 words that I want to use today that I want you to follow is a beautiful Italian word called arte scienza. It means bringing art, science, imagination together into what is called whole brain thinking. I also want you to understand connexion. Connexion is a word which says that everything in this world is connected to each other. And the 3rd word is curiosita, which means having the curiosity to understand and know these connections. Okay? So we're going to follow these 3 principles as we go along. The next 5 slides has got grade 8 mathematics. For those of you who don't want to get into mathematics, you can just completely ignore the mathematics. Just follow me, and then I would say trust me. Okay. I'm going to plot some equations, and you will have to assume that those plots are right because you will not understand. But let's just go through it. I'm going to model your life. I'm going to model how you live day to day as a mathematical equation. So what you're doing right now, is some function of what you were doing just a moment before. You agree with me? With some change c. Okay? So we are going to write it as yn plus 1, n is the moment, is a function of what you were doing in yn plus some change c. Okay? Simple? You understand this principle? Now what you're doing really, you're creating a network, a feedback mechanism from your past to your present. You're creating a network. You're creating a network between your past, present and your future. So we write it as yn plus 1, yn square. Let's say it's a square function. We can do it with any function, but let's assume in this case it's a square function, and I'll tell you why later. Okay? It's a network. The second principle that we're going to talk about is that you are a complex creature. You will agree with me on that as well? Yes. And we all know how a complex number is written, right? A plus bi. I is the square root of -1. If you don't understand, don't worry. I is an imaginary number. So we write complex equations by saying that there is a real component and an imaginary component. And say, I put both of these things together. Number 1 is that you are a network of moments, and we write the first equation, and then we represent y, which is you, as a complex number, a plus ib, and I put it together. So therefore, I have an equation where I'm going to plot the real part of you and the imaginary part of you. Understood? So we are going to essentially look at the real part of you, your body, your actions, your visible energy. That is the real part of you. We can all see you over here. And I'm also going to plot on the y-axis the imaginary part of you, the intangibles, the unseen, your emotions, your thoughts, your passion, your personality, things that we cannot measure. Okay? And if we solve this problem, we solve those 2 equations together, and we plot all the possible answers, we know when your mind and body come together, the mind and matter. And we are going to do it over a period of time. So we're going to see how this thing unfolds. Now, when I solve those 2 equations, and I've done a fast forward of 1000 iterations of n, and n is equal to 2, n is equal to 3, you see that is the image that comes out in front of you. Right? Now, there was a mathematician called Mandelbrot. He was studying something else, and I'll talk about that as well. And he came up with this set. It's called the Mandelbrot set. And we are going to spend the rest of the day showing how this equation is actually plotting your life, your real and your imaginary part, your seen and your unseen, your intangibles, right? Now, Mandelbrot was actually studying the coastline of Britain. He was told to measure the coastline of Britain. And he said that if I take a yardstick which was 200 kilometers long, I come up with a coastline which is 2,300 kilometers. That's the coastline of Britain, the size. Then he said if I reduce the size of the yardstick to 100 kilometers, the size of the coastline changes. It becomes 800, sorry. And when you change the yardstick to 50 kilometers, you see far more detail, and the coastline becomes 3,500 kilometers. So you keep reducing the size of the yardstick, and you see more and more detail. So he said that, you know what, I can never tell you what the coastline of Britain is, but I can tell you how rough it is. I can tell you a whole lot of characteristics of these coastlines. And amazingly, this whole method of capturing dimension was called fractal dimensions. And he started seeing these fractal dimensions across the world. The one on the top is in Argentina. The one in the bottom is the coastline of Greenland. The one on the top left is plains of Australia, and the one in the bottom are the dunes of Saudi Arabia. You will see they are all very similar. They are all very similar. They are all this graph-like pattern, and they are all fractal equations. The one in the middle is actually generated out of that same equation that I showed you. You go, after many iterations, and we are going to soon go into many iterations, you're going to find patterns like this. That is how nature presents itself. Nature presents itself in multiple dimensions of fractals. From the brain cell to the universe, they look alike. From the birth of a cell to the birth of a star, they look alike. From inside the eye to the nebula, they also are looking alike. There is something that presents itself in multiple dimensions. This equation, this fractal dimension, presents itself in multiple dimensions. Fractals in nature. Plants, animals, the one on the right is actually a bacteria. You will see that self-repeating structures show up all around our nature, and they are all fractals. Fractals means you're studying fractions. This fraction, the smallest portion, also represents the whole. When the previous performer performed Shiv Ranjani, there was a little signature of that rag, and that rag contains the entire information about, that signature contains the entire information about that rag. It is a world within the worlds, and I'll come to it later. The internet. It's a network of things connected to each other. That is a fractal. That's an image of the internet, various computers connected to each other. And that can be represented as a fractal. Now, if you are part of this smallest cell to the universe, if everything can be represented as a network and fractal, then you must be a fractal as well. And therefore, we just modeled your life, a network of events one after the other, and you're a complex creature, and therefore it is a fractal. Anything that can be modeled as a network displays fractal characteristics. So I can't tell you what your equation is, but I can certainly tell you the characteristics of what it looks like. Okay? Let's go back to that slide for a moment. Right? You've got the seen and the unseen, and that was the example. And 1,000 iterations, you got that image. That's called the Mandelbrot. Now let us take a zoom, and we do billions of calculations, billions of iterations, and see what happens. That same equation, as you're going deeper and deeper into that equation, you're going to find that you keep finding that same pattern over and over and over again. This is a visualization of your life, mind and matter, of the seen and the unseen. And at any point in time, take a look. The thing that we are doing right now is changing the see and zooming in, doing more iterations. And you're going to see wonderful patterns. Now the colors of this graph are also very interesting. When the equations converge, we do a dark color. When the equations don't converge, we have a lighter color. So throughout this map, you're going to see patterns where the equation is converging or the equation is not converging, just like your life. Sometimes the equations converge. Your mind and your body come together, and sometimes it doesn't. You're sitting over here thinking about the match outside. Your mind and body are in two different places. You will not converge. You're not going to get the benefit of this event. And you will find that as you zoom in, you're going to keep finding that same pattern all over again, over and over and over again. That is the property of a fractal, and that is how your life represents itself. This zoom that you saw, if this was your life, that moment from where we started the zoom to this could be a microsecond, could be an hour, could be a lifetime, could be any of those. It is up to you to decide what is this duration. Now let's look at some properties, because it is going to apply to your life. Self-similarity is a property we just talked about. It is world within the worlds. When Krishna opened his mouth and showed the entire universe inside his mouth, I think he was showing Yashoda fractal inside his mouth, because that sort of represents the whole world inside his own body. So all of you actually have the same power as Krishna did of showing the world within your own world. Hindu temples have got fractal characteristics. Christian texts have got fractal designs all over them. You will be most surprised. Islamic art from 1500s have got the same structure. Buddhist sculptures, look at the one on the right are computer generated models that we just saw, and the one on the left are actual designs that have been there. Look at the similarity in which these equations present themselves, right? If you look at nature, when people are left in nature, people are left to do things without human intervention. African villages, they are also structured like fractals. As the village grew, they would create these little structures and grow the village. If you take a look at grain silos in Zambia and Cameroon, they actually stored the grains in such a way. Every season they would create this grain silo. And they would do it in a way that is actually a fractal. The one in the middle is actually a computer generated version of what this fractal equation is. They didn't have any equation, they didn't have any computers, but look at the design and look at the similarity with which nature presents itself. Now, the second property of fractal is the degree of roughness. How much detail are you able to see? If you look at that snowflake, you can either see it like a triangle, or you can add more and more and more design, more and more fractals inside it, and you can see a beautifully formed snowflake. That was another set of people who were working on this whole fractal idea. The lotus leaf does not absorb water, and the property is the degree of roughness that is there on top. 3 degrees of roughness prevents water from soaking in, right? Now let us take an example of Sachin Tendulkar. When the ball is coming at 175 kilometers per hour, he knows exactly how much to raise his bat and hit the ball, and by and large he's going to get it right when his mind and body are together. What is he seeing that you and I cannot see? When the ball comes at 175, I'm going to stand there and the ball is going to go to Dhoni, right? That's exactly what is going to happen. So let's see, if this was the same fractal equation, I'm going to do a little trick there. The one in the middle, the one little hazy spot is the ball, right in the center of this equation, center of the screen. You and I are going to see this screen and we are going to say that that is the ball. There is no clarity, it's a little hazy white spot. But this is what Tendulkar is going to see. He is going to see the ball in its entirety. He will be able to see at what speed it is spinning. He will be able to understand what height it is coming in. He is going to be able to understand who is the bowler. And this map in his mind is the detail that he is able to see. This map in his mind, in a fraction of a second, he has to see all of this. He has to decide how much to raise his bat and he's going to hit it. If his mind and body are in the same spot. And sometimes it is not. He's thinking about his wife or children or whatever, and he misses and the ball goes out. So what is the fractal zoom that you're able to do in the smallest period of time? The third property is the zones that you are in. Are you in the big boring area, are you in the little boring area, or in the interesting bit? The interesting bit of convergence is in that edge. And as you go into the edge, as you zoom in, you're going to see beauty. You're going to see all kinds of things in the world that in your own life, right? If you want a few lessons from all of this in life, you're never in a dark and a white zone for too long. You can change, see, and get out of it. Suppose you're stuck in a spot where the mind and body are not converging. Introduce a lot of change and you're going to get to a spot where it will converge. A small amount of change. Both energy and ideas require a body for convergence to happen. If you just have an idea and do nothing, it will not converge. If you just have the body and no idea, nothing will happen. But if both of them come together, you're going to see interesting things. Intent and action has to converge. When you look at intent with which people do things, right? At that point in time, you're going to understand that what he is doing and what his mind is saying are the same thing. Practice. Sachin Tendulkar practiced a lot to get that image in his mind, right? You have to practice to get to draw this metaphorical map in your mind. He doesn't have an equation, neither will you, to understand your own equation for achieving that enlightenment. Focus on the energy, number of iterations, and draw that map out. Yeah? Energy is renewable, time and matter are not. What is your fractal dimension? Right? Keep your body fit. Develop your senses to see this detail. See this detail in everything, from the food you eat, to the smell you have, to the friends you meet. That level of development of your senses will enable you to see the detail, feel the detail. Deal with ambiguity. Understand that little hazy thing is hazy today, but if you step towards it and understand the detail, you will be able to see a lot of beauty. So I'm going to just summarize over here. So when the equations of your mind and body converge, great things happen. And it is happening every moment of your day. We plotted your life as a series of moments. And when your body and mind converge in that moment, you will see great things. Be conscious, observe. You are born many times. We saw the self-repeating structure. And at any point in time, you can zoom in. You can zoom in to be the great detail holder of that particular domain that you're in. Maybe as a speaker, maybe as a performer, maybe as a dancer, it doesn't matter. A person who can see this detail will see world in a different way. How much detail are you able to sense? Right? Use all your senses. Are you living on the edge or are you in the boring center? If you are in the boring center, introduce some change to go to the sea. Understand that at that sea, your mind and body are together. You're passionate about what you're doing and you're doing it. You're not just thinking about it, you're doing something about it as well. When you do what you're passionate about, convergence will happen. Okay? To develop this complete mind, you need to study the science of art and the art of science. You need to see, feel, and hear this detail that is there in the world. And emergence or enlightenment is finding your own fractal equation and the fractal equation of your own.